We've known each other since January of '92, right?
92, yes.
And we met in the hospital getting our pumps.
January 23rd.
Oh, yeah. As I recall, you got yours first.
I did. I was patient number 2.
And you won't let me forget that, will you?
That's right. You're patient number 3.
I was 3. So, and we both had the same kind of experience
Yes.
that some, I won't use the word necessarily magical, but some very, very definite change happened
Yes.
almost immediately.
Yes.
And I remember in years after, you talked about a fog kind of lifting.
Yes. Or a screen in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
That went away.
Yeah. And being out of sync or out of step a little bit.
Yes.
And then, but it went away immediately. It's like within a day. It's
Yes.
not, we're not talking about suddenly your diabetes was perfectly controlled and you
Mm-hmm.
had weeks or months on it. There's something we both know is there.
Right.
And in those early days when the pump batteries would die, we had to go back on sub-Q for a while.
Yes.
I remember talking, and I'd like to hear what you remember about what was it like when we went off the pump for a while, got used to sub-Q. Did you ever wonder if, was it really that good on IP? Or, how do you feel about that?
You kind of get complacent once you have it, although I always feel a certain levity about having the pump. I always feel lucky, and I feel more energized with the pump. And so going off the pump is always sort of a dreaded feeling for me, because I really don't want to go back to traditional therapies and have all of that energy and things taken away from me again.
Did you ever kind of get used to going back on sub-Q? So
No.
Yeah, see.
No.
Because I remember you giving me a hard time. Because I'd call you and say, I've been off the pump for about 2-3 months now. And it was really bad at first, but I'm kind of adjusting it to it pretty well.
Right.
And it seems like it's not so horrible. And you'd say, that's not what you said before. And then I'd get the pump back and it was
Yes.
like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what a difference.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's partly because a lot of type 1s that we know, you just learn to make the best of it.
Yes, and you don't know anything else.
Yeah, yeah. But you're smarter than me. You keep your memory is good when you go off. Yeah, yeah,
I know. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And when you talk about this energy thing, we've had how many years now? It's 92.
92, and now it's 2016.
24 years.
Yes.
And since 2007, we've been going to over to Europe every 3 months together.
Correct,
most
yes.
of the time. And during all that time, it never changes. It's always good
Yes.
on the pump,
Yes.
on the internal pump. Do you think it's just because your control's better, or is there something else going on?
I think there's something else going on. I think it's the way that the insulin is getting into your peritoneal cavity, that it sends more insulin to the liver, and I think that that's what makes us feel better, makes us feel more alive. That's my theory.
Yeah. That's your experience.
And my experience, yeah.
Yeah. We may not have the exact answer, but we know what we experience.
Yes.
You talked about the support group, and it seems like others were there, and
Yes.
that surprised me too.
Yes.
I don't remember as I think clearly as you do. I just remember thinking, what are they talking about? I've always been wonderful to be married to, But the idea was that, I guess in thinking back on it, do you think it's because not only do you feel better, but you're not hammering yourself every hour, every day, trying to control something you can't keep under great control?
Yes. And I remember so many of the significant others, the comment they made was, I got my husband back, or I got my wife back. That they remembered the person they were before they had diabetes, and once they were on the internal pump, they felt like, oh, this is the person, who's not as grumpy, who's not as difficult to live with, and they were very happy to have them back.
Well, my answer to that is that when you don't feel that well and don't know you don't feel that well,
Right.
because I promised that before I got the pump, I was very athletic, very active, not talented athletic, but just very athletic. And I thought I was doing great.
Yeah.
I thought I felt great. I was running my own company, running marathons, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then that day after, you say you wake up next morning. It's literally the next morning
Yes.
you wake up. And it's like, something's different here.
That's exactly what I said. Something's different.
Something's different. You know, what's
yeah,
going
I feel
on?
different. I feel
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we talk to the patients that we occasionally run to in Montpellier. They all say the same thing.
Yes.
So we're
The
either
French
all
patients,
crazy
yes. Yeah.
or we're right. Yeah. So you work in a stressful situation.
Yes.
You're a manager in software development for a large company, and if something goes wrong, it's your fault.
Ultimately.
Yeah. If it goes right, it's someone else's victory. But so when you're on sub-Q, if you don't catch a run up or a run down,
Yes.
it's disastrous.
It takes a while to fix
Yeah.
those situations. Yes.
But an IP, if you start drifting up or down, have you noticed? I have, but I'm wondering if you noticed, the correction is trivial.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's much easier to handle.
yeah. So you're going into a meeting, pop a couple of glucose tablets or
Yes.
drink a little bit of juice and go to your meeting, and you can still be Ann in the meeting instead
Yes.
of sitting there kind of drooping over and,
Just
passing
hoping
out.
nobody asks you a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I noticed that when I was most active in my work as well,
Yeah.
that prior to the implantable pump, I made sure my blood sugar was high. If it was an important
Yes.
meeting or I was being challenged or whatever,
Yes,
for
I would too. Yes.
because you can't afford not pass out necessarily, but your blood sugar is low, your brain's not as sharp, you don't feel as well, you're not picking it up. And
You're
things.
having a physiological reaction
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes it very difficult to handle maybe a difficult question that comes your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this, but I don't remember for sure. One thing I noticed is that on sub-Q, when you wake up in the middle of the night with a low blood sugar, and a lot of type 1s I've talked to talk about this.
Yes.
You wake up, you're 52 or something, and you head out to the kitchen and you start shoving down everything you can get your hands on.
Eating the refrigerator.
It's almost like a survival mode. You can't
Yes.
stop eating, a
Yes.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich, sugar, cereal, and halfway through you're saying, I know I've had enough, but I just got to
Exactly.
get. So
Exactly,
it's,
yes.
you're to survive, your
Yes.
body's, consume.
Yes.
It doesn't happen on the implantable pump.
No.
If I happen to get low, I'm wondering if you have the same experience, you have to deal with it.
Yes.
But it's so much easier.
Yes.
And you don't suffer the aftermath
Yes.
of, like on sub-Q.
Yes.
So
exactly.
see, this is that unexplainable, part of that unexplainable thing that all the type 1s that we know that have this talk about, that it's not just that you don't have to take shots or, that's trivial.
Right.
I don't mind
Right.
taking shots and all
Right.
that. It's that it works so much better and there's so much less effort.
Yes.
Your experience too, or?
Absolutely. I mean, like I have said, you think about it less. You almost forget you have diabetes because you're just living your life and you're not constantly in fear of a low blood sugar because, as you said, it's slower and harder to correct on the traditional insulin therapy than it is when you're using the internal insulin pump.
We went to Santa Barbara, that you mentioned previously, to try to convince the company to keep the pump going, and
In the
we weren't
US, yes.
successful. But we went down there to sit down with like 5 other type 1, were there about 5 other patients?
At least 5
Yeah,
other.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I remember, and your memory is way better than mine, but I remember, was it a round table or squares we were sitting around, all facing each other?
Yes, I think that
Yeah.
was the way the
Yeah.
layout was.
And then
Yes.
someone asked the other patients who are facing losing their pump, what was it like before and afterwards? And now again, keep me honest here, in my memory, every one of them said, my life was not good before, and this was a miracle for me.
Yeah.
And as we went around, and each person said this in detail, their doctor was sitting there. And I remember he stood up and said, "You never told me this, you guys." And I remember saying to him, "That's because they didn't know to tell you, and you didn't know to ask.
Yeah.
It's very personal what's going on."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you know, it really opened his eyes at that moment, I think,
Right.
at how profound it was." Is that a good memory or
Yes.
appropriate memory or
Yes.
correct memory?
And in addition to that memory, the memory I had was that several of the people talked about how devastating this was going to be for their
Yeah,
lives. And there was a lot of people in tears at that meeting having to give up their internal insulin pumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you have there.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the size of this? You know?
It's okay. It's okay. It's what's in my body. It's,
Yeah, and mine
it's
too.
down here in my body. It's there. I know it's there. As some people even had commented, it's kind of like your little baby that you felt protective of, but it's not intrusive.
So it would be nice, though,
If it was-
particularly for younger people, children, you know,
Smaller
you know,
people.
petite women, and whatever,
Yeah.
to have this less than half the size, and also,
Yes.
as far as, you know, we're not engineers, but we're told that the technology in this is 1980s technology.
Yes. That's correct.
What does your cell phone look like in 1980?
I think it was pretty big.
So we've been told by experts that this can now be redesigned into a far superior package. And in fact, we now know that they can put a glucose sensor on the catheter, and this can become a true artificial pancreas.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but my thinking is that the internal insulin, the IP insulin, peritoneal insulin, works so well. You hook that to a sensor and an algorithm.
Yes.
It's not a cure, but it's right on the edge of.
Yes.
It's not, we both have said at times we almost feel like we forget about diabetes compared to the old days.
Yes.
This you would forget.
I think you would forget.
Yeah.
Yes. You'd probably would be supposed to be testing from time to time, but
Yeah.
you would probably get so comfortable with it that
Yeah.
you'd forget.
All right. Well, I'm glad we met.
I'm glad we met those many years ago.
That was perfect. It was a great ending. It was very nice. Yeah, that can stand alone.
Yeah.
Actually,
A great piece.
Yeah.
There's a lot of connection between all of us because we've lived through this whole thing, and I'll get on the phone and talk for half an hour sometimes about, you know, and she's hard on me, but I'll say, I'll bait her. I'll say, "Was it really that much better?"
Yeah.
She'll say, "Well, you said it was."
Why don't you hold it?
I was gonna.
Okay.
Just, no, turn it back to the camera.
Ann or me?
Oh.
But, yeah, let Ann.
Yeah.
And
Because
just-
she's better than me.
just hold it.
You
Yeah.
like Ann better, Frank?
Just
Everybody
hold it.
does.
Don't even move. Just hold it like that for a second, so they can get a close-up of it.
You got it on that camera, Heather?
And point to something on there, Ann. Just, yeah.
The refill port.